today we are going to be learning lesson 8.5. This lesson is called Playing Factor Bingo because we will be learning a new game today. All right, let's start with our mental math. So this is just using the knowledge from our last 3 lessons. This would be fact extensions. So work on finding the answers to 5 times 60 and 7 times 70. So you should know that 5 times 60 is 300 because 5 times 6 is 30, and then you add a 0 to the end. So 5 times 60 is 300. All right, same thing with 7 times 70. Find that basic fact, which is 7 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Then you have 1 0 left to add to the end. So 7 times 70 is 490. All right, same thing. Let's try that with 8 times 30 and 7 times 40. Remember to pause the video for extra think time. All right, so for 8 times 30, we know our basic fact is 8 times 3. Which is 24. So 8 times 30 is 240. We just add that extra 0 to the end. Let's try this with 7 times 40. Our basic fact is 7 times 4, which is 28. So we know 7 times 40 is 280. All right, one more. So we're thinking about this in terms of division. Remember, when we're missing one of the factors, we're thinking about division. So 8 times what is 560? So I need to think about this basic fact. 8 times what is 56? We know 8 times 7 is 56. So if 8 times 7 is 56, I need to take the 0 from 560 and add it to the 7. So that means 8 times 70 is 560. I can check my zeros. I know 8 times 7 is 56. So I have 1 more 0 to add to the end. All right, now something times 9 is 81. Just going to drop that 0 off and think about my basic fact. So we know that 9 times 9 is 81. So something times 9 is 810. Well, I know it's a 9. 9 times 9 is 81. This goes here. Now I need this 0 to go here. 90 times 9 is 810. All right. Now, we're going to list at least 5 products that have 4 as one of the factors. So we're working on factors. So factors are numbers that you can multiply by to get an answer. So I'm kind of thinking about this backwards. So I know that 4 is the factor. And I want to know what answers could be products. Right, that would go here. Those are products. What answers could be products if I multiply by 4? So I can choose any amount of 4s. I can take 4 times 1, and I would get 4. I could take 4 times 2, and I would get 8. I could do 4 times 3, and I would get 12. I could do 4 times 4, and I would get 16. And I would just go on. To find products that have a certain factor, you just need to count by that number. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. These would all be products that have a factor of 4. And we call these something special. We call these multiples. All right, so we're going to move into multiples. All right, the products that we listed when we counted by 4, they are called multiples of 4. This means they are the numbers you get when you multiply 4 by other numbers. So 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 3, 4 times 4. These would be the answers that you get when you multiply by 4. It should remind you of skip counting. All right, so when you multiply by a certain number, the answer that you get is a multiple of that number. Now, products and factors we reviewed yesterday. So a factor is the number that you're multiplying by. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Those are 3 words we need to know. All right, let's practice. We're going to list multiples of 3. So that just means I need to think about if I'm skip counting by 3 or I'm multiplying by 3, what could be the numbers that I would get as answers? Take a minute, pause the video, and see if you can list some multiples of 3. So you should know that 3 is a multiple of 3 because 3 times 1 is 3. 6 is a multiple of 3 because 3 times 2 is 6. 9 is a multiple of 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. And you can continue this pattern. You could just keep going. I'm going to stop there because I ran out of space. So all of these are multiples of 3 because I can multiply by 3 and get them as the product or the answer to the problem. If I can count by 3 and land on that number, that is a multiple of 3. All right, try the same thing with multiples of 5. If you can count by 5 and land on that number, it is a multiple of 5. These are all our clock numbers. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. These are all multiples of 5. All right, here are some tips that can help you if you're having trouble finding factors. If you want to pause this and study it for a little bit, these are some hints. So 2 will be a factor when the number is even. 3 will be a factor when the digits add up to a multiple of 3. 4 will be a factor when you divide an even number in half and still get an even number. 5 will be a factor when the number ends in 5 or 0. 6 will be a factor when 3 is a factor, and the factor pair of 3 is an even number. 8 will be a factor when 4 is a factor, and the factor pair of 4 is an even number. 9 will be a factor when the digits add up to 9, or a multiple of 9. 10 will be a factor when the number ends in 0. 11 will be a factor when the digits in the 1s and 10s are the same, up to 9 times 11. And 12 will be a factor when 3 and 4 are both factors. That's just something you can go back to and review if you're wondering about, could this number be a factor of the number I'm looking at? Let's practice some factors. Okay, so the factor pairs for 12. This was in our last lesson. We think about what numbers could I multiply by to get 12? And like I said last time, I always start with 1 because 1 in itself are always a factor pair for a number. All right, then I'm going to go to my next number. I would go to 2. The last line told me 2 will be a factor when the number is even, and I know 12 is even. So I can do 2 times something to get 12. That'd be 2 times 6. All right, I'm going to go to 3. What did that paper say? It said 3 will be a factor when the digits add up to a multiple of 3. So let's see. 1 plus 2 is 3. So is 3 a factor of 3, a multiple of 3? Yes, it is. So I can take 3 times 4 to get 12. Now I know when my numbers meet, like 3 and 4, there are no more factors. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4 are factors of 12. All right, let's do the same thing for the factor pairs of 18. Remember to pause the video so you can practice on your own first. All right, so let's do 18. Once again, I always start with 1 and itself because that's a given. All right, then I'm going to go to 2. Is the number even? Yes, it is. So I know I can multiply by 2. 2 times 9 is 18. All right, then I'm going to go to 3. 3 is a factor if when you add the numbers up, like 1 plus 8, you get a number that you could count by 3 to get. So let's see, 1 plus 8 is 9. So is 9 a multiple of 3? 3, 6, 9. Yes, it is. So then I know 18 is a multiple of 3. So 3 times 6 gives me 18. Now, the only numbers I have left to check are 4 and 5. So I'm going to go ahead and say 5 is a no-no because 5 times anything needs to end in a 0 or a 5. So let's try 4. Up here it says 4 will be a factor when you divide an even number in half and still get an even number. That's kind of confusing. So let's think about this. So if I divide 18 in half and I get an even number, then I know that it has a factor of 4. If I get an odd number, then it does not have a factor of 4. So 18 divided by 2 is 9. So this is an odd number. So I know I cannot multiply by 4 in order to get 18. And I can think about counting by 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I definitely don't land on 18. All right, last one. This one is trickier. This one is 150, or just 150, no and in there. All right, so I can think about this by looking at first, thinking about it as 15, just kind of. I'm going to use 15 in my head as a thought. So let's say 150. So I need to first think about 1 times what times 150 would give me 150. Then I'm going to go to 2. I know I can multiply by 2 because 150 is an even number. So how many times would I multiply by 2 to get 150? I need to cut 150 in half. And when you do that, you get 75. You can think about that as money, like you have $1.50. If I was sharing that with 2 people, we'd each get 3/4. All right, then I can go to 3. Now, if I add up the 3 numbers and I get a multiple of 3, then I can divide by 3. So 150 would be 1 plus 5 plus 0, which is 6. So I can divide by 3. So it would be 3 times 50. All right, so now it says if you cut, for 4, if you cut 150 in half, which I already did, do you get an even number? You got 75. Is 75 even? No, it's odd. So that tells me I cannot, 4 is not a factor. All right, let's go to 5. All right, does this number end in a 0 or a 5? Yes, it does. So that means I can multiply by 5. 5 times 30 is 150. All right, now we're going to go to 6. Let's see what 6 says. We haven't looked at that yet. So 6 says 6 will be a factor when 3 is a factor. And the factor pair of 3 is an even number. Okay, so let's see. Was 3 a factor? Yes. Was the answer 3 times what? It was 50. Is that an even number? Yes. So that means it will have, it will have a factor of 6. So let's think, what times 6 is 150? It's 25. 6 times 25, 6/4, gives you $1.50 or 150. All right, let's go to 7. What does 7 say? Oh, there's no trick for 7. So we just need to think about, 7 is not a very common number that you can multiply by to get another number. So you could not multiply by 7 to get 150. All right, let's move on to 8. 8 has a trick. 8 will be a factor when 4 is a factor and the factor pair of 4 is even. So we already found out that 4 was not a factor, so that means 8 is not a factor. All right, let's look at 9. 9 will be a factor when the digits add up to 9. 5 plus 1 plus 0 is 6. Nope, that doesn't work either. Okay, let's go to 10. 10 will be a factor when the number ends in 0. Does the number end in 0? Yes. So 10 times 15 gives you 150. Now, we have 11, 12, 13, 14 left. So let's think about 11. When you multiply by 11, the numbers are going to be the same, like 22, 33, 44, 55, all the way up to 99. 150 you cannot divide by 11. Now when you divide by 12, let's see the trick. 3 and 4 have to both be factors. And we know 4 is not a factor, so it cannot be 12. So we're only left with 13 and 14. There aren't really good tricks for 13 and 14, but when we look at it and think about it, I know we cannot divide 150 by 13 or 14. So these are all the factor pairs of 150. That was a tricky one. All right, next we're going to learn to play a game. This game is called Factor Bingo. In your HomeLink book, if you go to lesson 8.5, there is a Factor Bingo sheet listed for you. But we can also play Factor Bingo by going to Canvas. I'm going to show you how to get to Canvas to play Factor Bingo. So if you click on your student Canvas, you should already be logged into this screen. If you are not, log in with your lunch number and your email password. Then you're going to go to your math class. You won't have as many classes as I do. This is just my screen will look a little bit different. But you should have a math class published. And then on the left side, you should have ConnectEd. We've done this together, so this shouldn't be anything brand new. After you get onto ConnectEd, it will take you to the Student Edition Everyday Math Grade 3 Journal. Then you will get this screen. Our lesson is not exactly the same, but it doesn't matter. We're going to go to Everyday Math Games Online, which is at the bottom. Now, this game we're going to play today is in the challenge section. So click on challenge at the top. Then you see all of these games. You're going to click on bingo in the middle. Then you get Factor Bingo. It's the only bingo that's listed in the challenge section. Now when you hit start, what you're going to do is you're going to be identifying factors of a number. You're going to match each factor with its product on the board. And for each correct match, you earn 10 points and get to wash a window. If you wash 4 windows in a line, or 8 windows in all, you get bingo. So it's going to give me a factor like 9, and I have to match it with the product. So for example, if you look at the screen, the 9 would go with 27 because 9 times 3 is 27. And that's how you play Factor Bingo. If you would rather play it in your HomeLink journal, there are directions on the HomeLink page. After that, you are going to do some independent practice today. Math boxes, page 265, and Math Journal Review, page 264. If you practice Factor Bingo today, you do not need to do your MobyMax facts. All right, I want you to pause the video here and then come back after you finish math boxes on page 265. I'm going to go over the answers on the next 2 pages so that you can check, but I would like you to pause and do them first and then come back to the video. All right, so let's look at number 1. Measure sides A and B to the nearest 1/4 inch. Without measuring, use what you know about rectangles to figure out the lengths of sides C and D. All right, so you're going to measure both sides A and B to the nearest 1/4 inch. And then you should know that whatever A is the same as C, and whatever B is the same as D. All right, I'm going to move on to number 2 because I do not have a ruler on this screen to use. It won't work. So I'm just going to kind of, hopefully you did that one and you measured and you realized these side is equal to this side and this side should be equal to this side. All right, complete the extended fact triangle and write the extended fact family. So I have 50 times 3 and I need to figure out what is the answer that goes here. So 5 times 3 is 15 and I add a 0. Now I have my facts for my family, my fact family. So I'm going to go 3 times 50 is 150. And then I'm going to say 150 divided by 50 is 3. And 150 divided by 3 is 50. All right, let's check the next 3. Fill in the missing numbers. All right, I remember that I need to count the spaces between 0 and 1 to find my denominator. 1, 2, 3. So all of these are going to be thirds. I'm going to go ahead and draw underneath the line my thirds. Okay, now I just count by thirds to find the numerator. So I have 0 thirds, 1 third, 2 thirds, 3 thirds. I'm going to double check that that's 1, correct. 4 thirds, 5 thirds, 6 thirds. Now it says draw a point at 2 thirds. So right here at 2 thirds, I should draw a point. All right, write 2 different fractions that name the shaded area of the circle. So first I see that there are 6 pieces. And out of the 6 pieces, 2 of them are shaded. So that is 2 6. Now, I'm going to take my thoughts here and I'm going to say I'm going to combine the pieces so that every 2 pieces is now equal to 1 piece. So now I have 3 pieces and 1 of them would be completely shaded in. So 2 6 and 1 thirds are equivalent fractions, and that's how I can name the areas, the shaded areas. All right, number 5, how can knowing 3 times 5 equals 15 help you complete the extended fact triangle in problem 2? All right, so we know, just think about this, we know that this 3 times 5 is 15 is the basic fact. If you pull out the basic fact and find the answer, all you have to do is add the zeros, and that's how the basic fact helps you. All right, so make sure that you go back and do Math Journal Review on page 264, and you play a couple rounds of fact